Hey, what's up fellow guys? Welcome to today's video. We're going to be doing my September reading wrap up. So getting on into the video, I did a lot of my reading this month on my Kindle because a lot of the books I read were on Kindle Unlimited. I do want to get the physical copies, I've just not have gotten to it yet. So I'm going to be putting photos of the books for a lot of these reviews. This month I did continue a lot with my reading streak that I had last month in August, because if you guys watched that video, I read 14 books in August, and this month I actually read 13 books. And I know that's a lot, however I did want to read a lot more this month. I think it took me like a week and a couple days to get through one book because I was just super busy nearing the ending of September because I had 2 exams. I had a KRS 463, which is sports biomechanics exam, as well as a lifespan nutrition exam. So I was a little busy. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So for the first book that I read in the month of September, I do have the physical copy, and it is going to be All In by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. If you guys remember seeing my August reading wrap up, I read the first 2 books in the month of August and continued to finish the series this month. And I gave All In, I believe, a 5. Just because a lot of things that happened in the previous 2 books, or hints that you've seen that you thought were minor details, ended up being some very important things that get revealed in All In, and I found that amazing. There was a part where I was like, oh my god, it was that person from the first book. And it's that person seemed very insignificant. I remember reading the second book being like, are we ever going to touch base on who the other person was? Or was it just a side character, you know, a little filler movement? But no, it ended up being very important, and that got revealed in this book as well as a bunch of other things. And what really drew me in with All In was kind of what I said. It brought in a lot of loose ties, or not even loose ties, but things that happened in the first 2 books were just answered in this book, and I found that amazing. As well as the murder mystery that you're going along in this book was really interesting to me because, you know, gambling, casinos, my mom goes to Vegas a lot to gamble, so seeing how the murders were occurring there was a little crazy, as well as all the little details that you get brought into going into the next book. So this book ended up being a 5 for me. The relationship building, the character development in this book, as well as the plot just thickens. I thought it was thick in the second book. Nah, it gets better. So if you guys are thinking about reading the Natural series, I say give it a go, because I think this series is completely underrated. I know a lot of people read The Inheritance Games, which is also by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I do have the first book on my shelf and it's on my TBR. However, I wanted to read the Naturals first, and I saw that it didn't get that many reviews, so I was like, this series is so underrated. So after I finished All In, the second book I finished in the month of September ended up being Bad Blood, which is the 4th and last book in the series, and this also ended up being a 5. Also, if you're wondering why it's so big, it's because this edition came with the novella at the end. So everything from here, I believe, is the novella, which I will get into. But Bad Blood, oh my god, my jaw was dropped. This book was crazy. It was phenomenal. Like I was saying in All In, a lot of things come together in that book, but everything comes together in this book, and that, it was mind-blowing to see all the plot twists, all the reveals that were unveiled in the last 200 pages. I was reading because I was oh my god, no way, it was him, it was her, it was Jennifer Lynn Barnes. You wrote a masterpiece. I love this series. Bad Blood, whew, a lot happens in this book. So it's going along with the first 3 books where there's a murder case that you're following, trying to figure out who the murderer is. So that is happening in this book, as well as you're coming together for what started the first book in the series, which is The Naturals. So as you know, Cassandra Hobbs, her mom was murdered, and that murder is touched upon in the first 3 books, and it all comes together in this book. And that was crazy how everything was planned out, all the characters you meet, all the interactions, everything that you've read in the previous 3 books come together to make up the ending of this book. And it was good. The character development, well, great. The romance, Cassie and Dean. Not gonna lie, I was a Cassie and Michael fan, but I'm really liking Cassie and Dean and Michael and Leah. But It was so good. Like, the plot was good, the romance was good. I was hooked. I was hooked, and it genuinely made me want to get a second bachelor's in criminology because of the way that these books were written. Like, everything was captivating, everything was so good. It makes me want to be a profiler. And I know that's not a very descriptive review to give about this book, but I don't want to spoil it for you guys because it's that good. Just know that I also gave Bad Blood a 5 and that you guys should read it. And the third book I finished in the month of September was the novella for this series, which is called 12, and I'll put a photo of the cover right here. It was included in like the back of this book, but I just read it off my Kindle. It was really good. I believe I gave the novella a 3. I believe. I'm gonna double check that. I gave 12 a 3.5. I just double checked. It was really good. It was cute. It wasn't really focused on the 4 or 5 main characters that you've read about in the first 4 books of the Natural series. It features some of them, but it's not like moments together of them as a group. Like, some of them go off on a different mission, and it's about a character that you actually have seen in the second book. Like, you get to see them grown up because it's a couple years later. But yeah, I just felt unfulfilled. Like, I really wanted more like family moments between the original characters and seeing how their life was together after the ending of the 4th book, like how the relationship developed, and maybe like cute, fun filler stories of all of them together, kind of like A Court of Frost and Starlight was. But it was focusing on one murder. It was only like 100-something pages, 200 pages, and it was only like 3 out of the original 5 main characters that were featured a lot. I don't know. It was good, and that's why I gave it a 3.5. Like, it was definitely enjoyable. I just wished it was more focused on the other characters, but it was still good, and I still think you guys should read it. So after I finished the Natural series and the novella, the next book I read in the month of September was The Cruel Prince. And I know everyone always talks about this book. It's on BookTok, about Jude Duarte and Carden Greenbrier. Oh, it was so good. I gave this book a 4. Don't hate me. I know I didn't give it a 5, but I gave it a 4 because as well as I did love it a lot, and I read this in almost one sitting, like I was glued to the pages, it didn't feel like enough for me to give it a 5. But it was still got a 4, and I still consider that really high. The plot, I thought that was really cool, like learning about the different fae, and then I got to learn about different things like curses and, you know, like how mortals are able to like live in the fae world and not grow old and stuff like that, as well as like the different features. Like Carden has a tail. It was good, and I really love the big dick energy that Jude Duarte gives off in this book. Like, you don't want to mess with her. She's a queen. She is a bad bitch. Like, I really love this book because of her. She was just so powerful, and Carden just, oh, he gets obsessed with her. Okay, maybe not in this book, but like you see the way that he interacts with her in this book, and it was amazing. And then the plot twist kind of at the end, I want to say that I feel like I saw that coming, and I might have seen a spoiler about that on BookTok. I'm not too sure, but it still kind of shocked me a little bit because I was like, but how is this and this and this, and then it all made sense. There are a lot of times where I was pissed off in this book, I can't talk, specifically about Locke. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him. I despise him. No. And Taryn, like, I don't like her. They could never make me like you, Taryn. Like, and I feel so weird saying that because one of my best friends' name is Taryn. So the whole time I'm reading this book, it's like I hate the character in this book, Taryn, but I love my best friend. So it was definitely like a mind game because I'm like, oh, Taryn's so annoying. But like, you know, I know a Taryn in real life and she's not that way at all. She's the best. So it was just, why do they have to name her that? Okay, so if the camera like angle changed at all, it's because my camera died. So I took a quick nap. My hair is a little messy, and I low-key forget what I was talking about this book. So I'm gonna try my best to finish up the review for this one. I absolutely love the book. Like I said, I gave this a 4 out of 5. The plot was good. The character development was good. It was a good backstory as well as like a world building. One thing that I just remembered what I want to say about this book, there was one thing I did not like, and that was the bully trope. I'm not a huge fan of the bully trope, and it kind of made me like, ooh, in some parts of this book, but it gets better. And it's also enemies to lovers, and enemies to lovers is my favorite trope ever. So, and the enemies to lovers in this book is good. They are like true enemies to lovers. It was masterpiece. And I overall really like this book. I definitely think it is a good starter. And after I finished this book, we immediately went into the second book, which is The Wicked King, and I also gave this one a 4 out of 5. This one picks up almost immediately where the first book ends, and I really like that. There's no like huge time skip or anything, and so I think that's super cool. I think there was some parts of this book that I kind of didn't like. The ending threw me for a loop because I was like, there's no way, like there's absolutely no way, like there's no communication, but trust that it'll get resolved in the next book. But the ending of this one shocked me. Like, I didn't see it coming, and I knew in my heart that there's no way that's what happened, and I mean, like, I was right. But before I read the third book, I was like, I was almost tempted to drop this just because of the ending. But oh my god, the tension, yeah, kind of like what I said in the first book, the enemies to lovers, the sexual tension in this book, the romantic tension. Oh, I believe this is also in young adult, so there's no like smut, like it's not like smuttily written or anything, but there is romance and there are like mentions of sex, but no smut. But it's still good nonetheless, because the enemies to lovers, I love Carden Greenbrier. He is definitely probably in my top 10 book boyfriends. Like he's up there. Especially the audio where it's like, kiss me until I'm sick of it. Have I told you how hideous you look today? No, tell me. I can't. Oh, because Faye can't lie, so she could. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but it's a very popular BookTok audio, and it just says a lot about Carden and Greenbrier. Anyways, this one, there's more tension throughout this book between like Carden and Jude because of the events that end in The Cruel Prince. So that's definitely something that you see a lot in here. However, a lot more stuff happens, and you see like how he gets protective over her, and the plot just thickens, especially like regarding Taryn. And oh my gosh, this book, guys, it was so good. I did also, like I said, I did give this one a 4 out of 5 just because I still felt like there was something missing, like especially with the ending of what happened in this book. It definitely wasn't a 5 out of 5 for me, but it was still a 4 out of 5 because I loved it. And with that said, the next book I ended up reading in September was The Queen of Nothing, which is the third and last book in the Cruel Prince trilogy, and I gave this one a 5 out of 5. Like, this one finally earned the 5 out of 5 placement because it's amazing. I, however, would like to say I was also pissed. And not really pissed, but I guess I felt really unfulfilled. I remember I posted something in my story talking about how I did give this book a 5 out of 5 because I loved it. I loved like the curse aspect, I love the beginning, and I just love the series as a whole. But I do think that I felt really unfulfilled. I felt like the last 100 pages were rushed. This one's the shortest book out of the 3, and I find that odd for it being the ending. And it just made me feel a little empty inside because I'm like, what about this? What about that? Why was this all rushed? Why aren't we seeing more of what happens after? Like, I definitely felt like the ending could have been better. I do know that she does write a spin-off series called The Prisoner Throne, which focuses more on Oak, and that Jude and like Carden are featured in that. But I still felt very unfulfilled with this book, but it still got a 5 because the enemies to lovers, the romantic tension, the plot, the way things come together, the epic like fighting scenes, the tension. I was scared for her life throughout this book a lot because I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. The betrayal, the backstabbing. But it was just good. Like, honestly, Jude becomes even more badass. She stands her ground, especially when you have like the whole like counselors, I think is what they are. Like, you know, like, you can't do this, you can't do that, blah 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 blah. And she's like, no, I'm gonna just do it. And she looked good doing it. And I don't know if it's in here, but I would recommend seeing Carden's letters. I don't think they were in this because when I read it on my Kindle, I didn't get to see his letters. I saw it on TikTok and I cried. Like, those were so sad, and I just can't imagine what it'd be like to think you're so clever but for someone not to get it. Like, that broke my heart, and it's not in this book. So if you guys finish this book, I recommend looking up Carden's letters. That's all I'm gonna say. It was good, and I definitely feel like I'd reread this again in the future because it's a nice little trilogy. It's pretty short and I really love it. Like I really do. That was one of my favorite trilogies that I've ever read, and I do want to read the 2 novellas, which is like the Lost Sisters, and then there's one where it's like How the King of Elfheim Came to Hate Stories, I believe, as well as a spin-off series which is like the Prisoner's Throne and the Stolen Heir. Like I definitely want to read those in the future. I'm just trying to get through the series that I'm currently reading, and that's how we're gonna get into the next book that I read this month. I ended up reading the first book of the Zodiac Academy's The Awakening, and I gave this book, I'm gonna double check real quick, I gave this book a 4.5. I'm gonna have to keep up my Goodreads for me when it comes to this, because this series was an emotional roller coaster. So this book got a 4.5 for me. I want to like foremost warn you guys right now, I love the series. Like I'm eating the series up. I cannot put it down. This series pisses me off so much, but because it pisses me off, it makes me want to keep reading. And I'm like rating these books, very interesting ratings, because of how mad I'm getting over this book. But the plot and the characters just keep pulling me back in that I want to keep reading. And the reason that I say that is because I'm gonna say this now. Please don't hate me. I know there's a lot of like my friends that love the Zodiac Academy, but the writing's not that good. Like the grammar, there's so much spelling errors. I genuinely think the authors should consider getting an editor just so they can double check their works, because there was a lot of grammatical and like spelling errors. But however, you know, I'm reading the book for like an enjoyable story. I'm not reading it because it's like a work of art, like it's great literature. I'm reading it for the story. But I want to foremost like say that, because I know there's some people who get turned off when a book is like written like that. It gives me major Wattpad vibes, and I was a Wattpad girly. Like in middle school, I read a lot of like werewolf, vampire, fantasy books, as well as like just contemporary romance books. So I was a Wattpad girly. I used to write books on Wattpad, so I would know. And it gives me really Wattpad vibes, so I will foremost say that. Do not go in expecting like great literature, but do go in expecting a hell of a story, because the plot of Zodiac Academy, the characters, the romance, everything that happens is, it's so good. You know, it's featured around these 2 lost Vega twins who are actually princesses to the throne. They get discovered in the mortal world because they're changelings, and they come back, and the heirs to the thrones right now, because they were raised to take over since the princesses were gone, are total assholes to them. So this book is a bully trope. I will say that right now, and I definitely hated that. Like, you know, bully tropes can be good, but I genuinely did not like it in this series because I felt like it was too much. Like, there were points where I was like, you know, it just wasn't hitting. But it still got a 4.5 because the romance, the forbidden romance, and everything that just happens in the book, oh, I ate it up. And then the plot's good. Like, I've never read a story about like zodiac signs with constellations, so this is the first ever like plot that I've read before. Obviously, like, some of the tropes are like, you know, tropes that you've read before: fated mates, forbidden romance, age gap, stuff like that. But it's good, and I gave the first book a 4.5. And I'm just gonna say now, the rest of the books for this video and what I read for September are mainly the Zodiac Academy books, except for the last one. So we're gonna go into the next book that I read, which was Zodiac Academy Ruthless Fae, and I gave this book a 4. So this one, the bully trope, not even bully trope, but like the bullying in this book like went up a notch, and that's what I hated in this book. I gave this one a 4. Like, I still rated it high just because the Blue Lance romance brought it back up. I live for Blue Lance, guys. I love that couple. Like, they, oh my gosh, when I watched Pretty Little Liars, for all of you guys that have ever watched Pretty Little Liars growing up, I was a huge Arya and Ezra fan, so obviously I'm gonna love Blue Lance, and I ate that up. And the romance between the 2 of them is the only reason this book got a 4. I will say that now. A lot more happens in the second book. You get more of like a deeper dive into like the backstories of all the characters, kind of, and like what's happening like around them, like what's happening with the bigger picture, and you like start to discover that there's more forces at work against them. And that's all I can really say about the second book without giving away too much spoilers. things start to heat up romantically, but so does the bullying. So the next book is called Zodiac Academy The Reckoning, and I gave this one a 5. I genuinely really love the third book a lot. Like the Reckoning and how they like do the trials, the fighting, them standing up for themselves, and watching the Vega twins, Darcy and Tori, like grow both as characters and in power was amazing. Like I absolutely love the third book. It got a 5 out of 5 for me. The plot continues. You get to see more about the forces. And, you know, there's some, like, soft moments between them and the heirs that start to come to light. And you're like, okay. Like, when they were, like, originally nice in the first book, like, at one part. And when they did it, I felt the betrayal. Like, I felt like I was getting betrayed. And that's because of the emotional connection I have with the characters. Like, in this third book, I really started to develop, like, that emotional attachment to these characters. Because it feels like I'm in the world with them. Like, that's why I can't put the book down, because I want to keep reading. I want to know what happens next. And once you get to the third book, it's like you're all in. You're in too deep. Like, you're gonna want to keep reading because of how attached you're gonna get. So the next book is book 4, which is called the Zodiac Academy Shadow Princess. And I hate to say it, but I ended up giving this one a 3.5. The ending of book 4, words cannot describe how mad and frustrated I was. I genuinely almost threw, like, my Kindle across the room. Like, that's how mad it got me. And I'm not gonna say much about, like, the rest of these books because, you know, I don't want to spoil it, but just know that there's a lot of good romance in it. Absolutely ate that up, and then the last 100 pages just ruined it for me. So I gave it a 3.5, and I genuinely debated, like, reading another book after I finished book 4 to, like, let myself cool off. And I was like, okay, I'll start another book. But then, as soon as I went to go read another book, I was like, I can't do it. I need to know what happens next. Like, I can't just not read the next book, and I started the next book. So the next book is Zodiac Academy Cursed Fates, which is book 5. I gave this one a 3.75 because another horrible thing happens, like, midway through the book. And it crushed me. Like, I remember, like, sitting up and being like, what the? Like, I was so mad with what happens in book 5. Like, it aggravated me. I felt the betrayal like it happened to me, and I had to take a moment to, like, just relax because that book hurt. And then we're gonna go on to Zodiac Academy book 6, which is Zodiac Academy Fated Throne. This one kind of redeemed itself. I gave this one a book 4. I gave this one a 4 stars just cause, like, it was good, but this is the book that took me over a week to get through because I had a lot of stuff going on with, like, exams and everything, and I just wasn't as hooked on this book because of everything that's happened before. Like, I genuinely had to look up some spoilers to see if I was even worth finishing the series for me, because I was like, if this is, like, how it's going to go, I'm just gonna DNF it. But I looked things up and it made me want to keep reading, so I finished the 6th book, and like I said, I gave this one a 4, so hopefully, like, you know, the ratings are going up. I'm currently on book 7, which is Zodiac Academy Heartless Sky, and I know this one's, like, everyone's favorite book. I'm really excited for this one because this is where I read the spoilers about, so I'm currently 25% in. But going back on to book number 6, Fated Throne, a lot happens. The ending, the last 100 pages, I was, like, captivated because I'm like, oh my god, it's getting intense. What's gonna happen? You know, like, it's a big turning point. A lot of secrets are revealed. A lot of things come together in the 6th book, and it really prepares you for what, like, the next books are going to be about. And it's just crazy. So much things are revealed, and it's just very emotional. Like, I was cheering up a lot between, like, the different characters, because in these books you do get to see a bunch of the side characters' point of views too, and it's just an emotional book. Like, this whole series was an emotional roller coaster. Like I said, I'm 6 books in, and these books are fat, guys. Book number 5, Cursed Fate, is 886 pages, so these are fat books, and I was reading these books in, like, 2 to 3 days, besides the last one that took month, or it took a week. Like, books 1 through 5, I finished in like 2 to 3 days because I was so enamored and captivated that I just sped through them. And yeah, it's, like I said, Zodiac Academy is a roller coaster of emotions. It's a huge ride. It's definitely not for everyone. I know a lot of people DNF'd it. I'm gonna seek it through because I don't want to DNF a book. I'm already on book 7. I have 2 books left because I'm not reading like the other point of views. I'm not reading the other novellas and side stories. I'm just reading the main 9. And so I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna finish it because things are looking up. I'm definitely captivating. The writing is sometimes a turn off because I swear the grammatical errors and the spelling errors multiply the more you read. But I just love the characters, the romances, and it's like a found family, and I can't let that go. So I'm definitely gonna keep reading. After Zodiac Academy book 6, I decided that I needed like a little break. So the last book that I read in the month of September is actually Satan's Affair by H.D. Carlton. If you guys read the Cat and Mouse duet series, which is Haunting Adeline and Hunting Adeline, this is one of like the novella side stories that features around a side character that you meet in the first book, Sibby. So Satan's Affair was 180 pages. I put this on my story and I was like, to start off the first day of fall, I'm going to read a spooky book because I thought Satan's Affair was gonna be like a spooky haunted Halloween, like haunted house read. No. No, 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 no. This was like smut central, guys. I was like, the first chapter alone, I was like, what did I just read? I should have just stopped it there. I should have. But nope, I read the whole book. I'm a little like, because that is the most like intense smut that I've ever read, and the circumstances on the whole smut stuff and like what she was doing was a little like, this is weird. Like, it was very weird. I gave this book a 3.25 because like it was good writing. It was genuinely good writing and I was hooked in some parts of it. I just think the smut was too much. I was hoping for more of like a haunted house, like killer and like all of this. I just wasn't expecting the smut, and I was definitely confused going into the book because of the same scenes that happened in Haunting Adeline made me think of stuff. But then you get to the first chapter of Satan's Affair and I'm like, oh wait, so the henchmen are like, you know, I'm not trying not to be too specific on this because I don't want to spoil it for you guys, but then the ending of Satan's Affair reveals everything to you, and it was like mind-blowing. And how it ends, I was like, wow. Like, it was actually really good, like up until the ending. The only reason I gave it 3.25 is because of the smut. Like, that was weird and a little gross, so I gave it a 3.25, but I still enjoyed it. I still really enjoyed the book. I don't know what that says about me because I gave Haunting Adeline a 5, but I gave Satan's Affair a 3.25. Anyways, that wraps up all the books I read in the month of September. So as you guys can see, it was a lot of series. You know, I was finishing up the Natural series, then it was the Folk of the Air series, and then Zodiac Academy, plus the little Satan's Affair novella. But I still think getting through 13 books while I had exams and school and my 6 part-time jobs is very impressive. So I would love to give myself a little hand because 13 books is a lot. If you guys stayed all the way to the end of this video, comment. It's spooky season, so I know that you guys watched the whole thing. And thank you guys for watching. Like, I'm trying to be more not as boring and repetitive in my reviews, so I hope I'm doing better and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And yeah, comment down below some books you want to see me read, some books you want to see me review, or other YouTube videos that you guys want to see. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you guys haven't already, you guys should go ahead and subscribe. Please leave a like and a comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!